Zambia is once again on edge. In a shocking twist inside the courtroom, the lawyer representing the late President Edgar Lungu's family has delivered what many are calling a bombshell. With the nation watching closely, this advocate has branded the Zambian government's entire legal case against the Lungu family as nothing more than a fantasy, a fabrication with no real foundation in law. But what exactly did the lawyer say? Why is the government so determined to push this case? And could this be the turning point that shifts the balance between the Lungu family and President Hakainde Hichilema's administration? For supporters, this is a bold defense of Lungu's legacy. For critics, it's just another attempt to dodge justice. But one thing is clear, this courtroom drama is not just about law, it's about politics, power, and the future of Zambia itself. Stay tuned, because what we uncover tonight will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about this legal battle. The battle over Edgar Lungu's legacy has reached a boiling point. In a stunning moment, the lawyer representing the late president's family has branded the Zambian government's case as a legal fantasy. In this exclusive breakdown, InspirAfrica official takes you deep inside the courtroom battle that has divided the nation. What Lungu's family lawyer actually said in court, why the government is pushing this controversial case, the hidden political stakes for President HH and the UPND, how this fight could reshape Zambia's political landscape ahead of 2026. This is not just about a legal case. It's about justice, legacy, and the future of Zambia's democracy. Subscribe to InspirAfrica official for more breaking news, African politics, and powerful analysis. The courtroom bombshell in Zambia's heated political drama. One moment left the nation stunned. Inside a tense courtroom, the lawyer representing the Lungu family stood up, looked the judge straight in the eye, and dropped a bombshell. He declared that the government's entire case against his clients was nothing more than a fantasy. But what did he really mean? The courtroom fell silent. Supporters of the government whispered in disbelief. PF loyalists leaned forward, eager to hear more. And across Zambia, people were left with one burning question. Could the case against the former First Family really be built on nothing? The lawyer's words were bold. Some called them reckless. Others said they were the bravest words spoken in months. To claim that the entire legal case was imaginary, a creation with no foundation in truth or law, was not just a defense, it was an attack. But why now? Why would the lawyer risk saying this in open court, knowing the world was listening? Behind the scenes, many believed this was strategy. By calling the government's case a fantasy, he planted doubt in the minds of ordinary Zambians. He made people wonder, if the evidence was strong, why would he dare to speak so fearlessly? Could it be that the case really has cracks big enough to break it apart? Others suggest it was desperation, that the Lungu camp is cornered, and the lawyer had no choice but to fight fire with fire. But here's the mystery. If it was just desperation, why did his words shake the room so much?
And then commence the deeper question.
If the case truly is a fantasy, who created it? Who is behind the push to bring down the Lungu family? And for what purpose? Justice or politics? The courtroom bombshell was not just about law. It was about perception, power, and survival. And in Zambia, those three things are always connected. But this is only the beginning. Because once the lawyer spoke those words, the story spread beyond the courtroom, into the media, into the streets, and into the heart of Zambia's political struggle. And that takes us to the next chapter, secrets of the case file. What evidence does the government actually have? And is it strong enough to stand? Secrets of the case file. Every case has secrets. Some are revealed in court. Others are locked away in files that the public may never see. And when it comes to the Lungu family trial, those secrets could decide everything. After the lawyer's shocking claim that the government's case was just a fantasy, people began to ask, what's really inside the case file? What evidence does the state actually have? Whispers say the file is thick with accusations, money laundering, unexplained wealth, hidden properties. But accusations are not proof. And that is where the mystery begins. For months, investigators have promised explosive evidence, records of transactions, witness testimonies, even international money trails. Yet when parts of the file reached the courtroom, much of it seemed blurry, incomplete, or too weak to stand on its own. So the question is clear, if the government truly has the smoking gun, why hasn't it been revealed? Are they holding back for the right moment? Or is the evidence not as solid as many were led to believe? Behind closed doors, analysts warn that a weak file could collapse under its own weight. If the state pushes too hard with shaky evidence, It risks not just losing the case, but also giving the Lungu family a powerful victory, one they could use to claim political persecution. But here's the twist. Some insiders believe the file holds more than meets the eye. Hidden documents, sealed testimonies, and international cooperation could still come into play. Could the government be saving its most powerful weapons for the final act? Or is this truly a case built on sand? The truth inside the case file is like a locked vault. Until it is fully opened, Zambia will remain in suspense, torn between those who see justice in motion and those who see a witch hunt. But one thing is certain. The secrets of this file are not just about law. They are about power, control, and the future of Zambia's democracy. And that takes us to our next chapter, Whispers in Lusaka. What is being plotted behind the scenes, in smoky rooms and secret meetings, while the courtroom drama plays out in public? Whispers in Lusaka. Not all battles are fought in the courtroom. Some are fought in whispers, in private homes, secret offices, and late-night meetings. And in Lusaka, those whispers may decide the fate of the Lungu family. After the lawyer branded the government's case a fantasy, Zambia's capital became a city of rumors. Every cafe, every bar, every corridor of power seemed to buzz with the same question: what is really going on behind closed doors? Some say senior figures in government are divided. That while some want to push the case hard, others quietly fear it will backfire and make martyrs out of the Lungu family. The whispers suggest strategy meetings are tense, with officials debating whether the evidence is strong enough to go all the way. But it's not just the government. Within the opposition, the Patriotic Front itself is said to be split. Some PF insiders want to rally behind the Lungu family, defending them at all costs. Others, still bitter about past betrayals, are ready to distance themselves, hoping to shape a new political future without the Lungu name. And then there are the business elites, powerful figures who rarely appear in public, but whose money and influence quietly shape outcomes. Are they leaning toward protecting the Lungu family? Or are they hedging their bets with the government? No one knows for sure.
In Lusaka, whisper Kariwekt.
A single rumor can spread across the nation within hours, fueling speculation, dividing opinions, and even moving markets. And in this moment, the whispers are louder than ever. But here's the danger. Whispers can be smoke, or they can be fire. Which one is this? Is Lusaka talking because people know the case is weak? Or because something far bigger is about to unfold? One thing is clear, while the courtroom is the stage, the real play may be happening in the shadows. And that leads us to our next chapter, the family under fire. What is life like for the Lungus themselves, caught in the middle of politics, power, and public judgment? The family under fire. Behind every headline, there are human faces. And in this courtroom war, the Lungu family has become both symbol and target. Once, they were Zambia's first family, living in State House, commanding respect and power. Today, they are under constant fire, facing accusations, court summons, and endless media scrutiny. For Edgar Lungu, the former First Lady, the shift has been dramatic. From national ceremonies and global recognition to walking into courtrooms, defending not just her name but the legacy of her husband.
Nebor whisper.
Old friends keep their distance. And in the public eye, the family is split between defenders who see them as victims of political persecution and critics who call them symbols of corruption. The pressure is relentless. But here's the untold side. Inside the family compound, sources say the tension is heavy. Children, once shielded from politics, now find themselves dragged into the spotlight. Esther herself has been described as resilient, even defiant, but every court appearance takes its toll. The government's case is not just against individuals. It's against the image of what the Lungu family once represented. To prove guilt would be to shatter their legacy. To lose the case would be to hand them a powerful story of survival, one they could use to rebuild political influence.
And so, the family walks at tightrope.
Appear too strong, and critics say they're arrogant. Appear too weak, and supporters begin to lose faith. But here's the bigger question. How long can they endure? Court cases drag on.
Headline never stop.
And the public judgment, harsher than any verdict, continues day after day. For the Lungus, this is more than a legal fight. It's a battle for dignity.
For survival.
For history itself. But survival comes at a cost. And as the family faces the heat, the spotlight shifts back to those who lit the fire in the first place. That brings us to our next chapter, the government's gamble. Why did the state take such a high-risk move against the Lungu family, and what happens if their gamble fails? The government's gamble. Why would a government take on one of the most powerful families in Zambia's history? Why risk everything by dragging the Lungus into court? The answer is not as simple as it seems. When the state first announced charges, it was hailed by some as a victory for justice, a sign that no one, not even former leaders, is above the law. But others quickly saw something else, a dangerous gamble that could backfire in ways no one imagined. The government's case isn't just legal, it's political. If they win, they send a clear message: corruption will not be tolerated. But if they lose, the Lungu family walks away stronger, with a story of survival that could ignite their political return. Behind closed doors, advisors warned of the risks. Taking on the Lungus meant unearthing secrets that might damage not just them, but the state itself. Documents, witnesses, financial trails, all of it could expose more than intended. Yet the decision was made. The gamble began. But here's the twist. Every time the lawyer calls the case a fantasy, it chips away at the government's credibility. Each court session turns into theater, broadcast to the nation, where perception often matters more than facts. And in that theater, winning the public is as important as winning the verdict. What happens if the gamble fails? For the state, it means not just losing face, but also opening the door for opposition forces to claim persecution. It could turn Edgar Lungu, even in death, into a symbol of resistance. It could hand the family a powerful political weapon. And yet, what if it succeeds? What if the courts find the evidence convincing? Then the Lungu legacy could collapse once and for all, buried under the weight of legal defeat. This is the razor's edge the government walks. A high-stakes bet where the prize is national credibility, and the cost could be political disaster. But while the government gambles, there are others waiting in the shadows, ready to use the chaos for their own gain. And that leads us into our next chapter, the secret players. Who are the hidden hands pulling strings behind the scenes? And what do they stand to gain from this courtroom war? The secret players. Every courtroom has witnesses, lawyers, and judges. But behind this case, there are shadows. Hidden figures whose names rarely make the headlines, yet whose influence could change the outcome. These are the secret players. Who are they? Some are political insiders, advisors who whisper strategies into the ears of powerful men. Others are wealthy business figures, tied to both past and present governments, who see the Lungu case not as justice but as opportunity. Then there are the international actors, donors and foreign governments quietly watching, calculating how the trial's outcome could shape Zambia's political stability. For them, this case is not just about one family. It's about the balance of power in a nation they've invested in for years. But perhaps the most mysterious players are those still loyal to Edgar Lungu himself. Even after his death, networks remain. Allies embedded in institutions, quietly resisting, quietly maneuvering. They may not appear in court, but their fingerprints are everywhere. And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Some analysts believe the case was never truly about corruption or justice. Instead, it's about control. A message to anyone daring to challenge the ruling party. If that's true, then the trial is only the surface.
The real battle is happening behind the curtain.
But there's danger in shadows. Hidden alliances can collapse. Secrets can leak. And when too many powerful hands pull at the same strings, the puppet can tear apart. So the question becomes, are these secret players guiding the trial toward justice, or chaos? Are they protecting the truth, or protecting themselves? And what happens if one of them is exposed? If a name slips into the open, it could unravel the entire story, forcing the nation to see what was never meant to be seen. This is why every headline, every statement, feels incomplete. Because the real story isn't just in the courtroom, it's in the whispers, the deals, the shadows.
But shadow don't stay hidden forever.
And in our next chapter, The Public Verdict, we'll see how ordinary Zambians, outside the court walls, may hold the most powerful judgment of all. The public verdict courtrooms decide legal guilt. But outside those walls, another trial is underway, the trial of public opinion. And in Zambia, that verdict may prove far more powerful. Every radio station, every newspaper, every social media thread is buzzing with the Lungu case. To some Zambians, the family is being unfairly hunted, victims of a political purge. To others, They are finally being held accountable for years of unchecked privilege.
The DVD is sharp, émotionnel, haine d'un relenting.
But here's the twist. In this public trial, facts don't always matter. Perception does. A fiery speech from a lawyer, a viral video clip, even a rumor. These shape the narrative faster than any courtroom judgment. And for the Lungu family, every appearance becomes a test. Do they appear confident or cornered?
Défiant, hors d'espérate.
Supporters rally outside the court, chanting, demanding fairness. Critics gather too, calling for harsher accountability. It's not just a case anymore. It's a mirror reflecting Zambia's deeper tensions, politics, class, even tribal divisions. The government knows this. That's why every statement, every move, is carefully timed. Because losing in the public, I could mean losing far more than a case. It could mean losing trust, losing legitimacy. And yet, the Lungus also know the power of the people. If they can convince the nation that they are being persecuted rather than prosecuted, they win sympathy.
Sympathique en gros into loyalty.
And loyalty can turn into a political force. So who really holds the gavel here? Is it the judge inside the courtroom, or the millions of Zambians outside, deciding in whispers, debates, and rallies what justice truly means? But there's one more layer to this story. Beyond the court, beyond the public, there is history itself, waiting to decide how this chapter will be remembered. And that brings us to our final chapter, Legacy on Trial. What will history say about the Lungus, the government, and this extraordinary battle that has gripped the nation? Legacy on Trial court cases end.
Headline fade.
But what remains is legacy. And for the Lungu family, their legacy now hangs in the balance. Once, Edgar Lungu was Zambia's president, celebrated by some, criticized by others, but undeniably powerful. His family lived at the heart of that power. Today, that legacy is no longer written in stone. It's on trial, piece by piece, as accusations, defenses, and public opinion clash in ways no one could have predicted. But legacies are not decided only by courts. They're decided by how people remember. And memory, unlike law, is never simple. If the government succeeds, history may record the Lungus as symbols of corruption and greed, a family brought low by their own excesses. But if the case crumbles, their story could flip. They could become remembered as victims of political persecution, martyrs in a larger struggle for justice and power. This is the danger of putting legacy on trial. You don't just risk losing a case.
You risque reshaping la nation's memory.
Think of it. Years from now, Zambians will ask, who were the Lungus?
Heroes?
Villains? Or merely scapegoats in a larger political game? The answer will not come from a single verdict. It will come from the collective story that people choose to tell. And that story is still being written.
Every speech. Every rally.
Every court appearance. Each moment adds another brushstroke to the portrait of history. But here's the haunting question. When the dust finally settles, whose legacy will truly be on trial? The Lungu families, or the governments for daring to pursue them? Because in battles like these, it is not always the accused who are remembered most. Sometimes, it's the accusers. And so the courtroom drama ends. But the story of Zambia's struggle with power, justice, and memory has only just begun.